In this video, we're going to find out what a Pokemon would look like in the grimdark future of Warhammer 40k. For anybody my age, or younger, Pokemon was all-consuming. Collecting the cards and being excited no matter what the pool was, as long as it was holographic. Playing a game and spending an hour trying to find the exit because you went into a cave without an escape rope. And the show. Good God, the show. Even at my age, come on man, that's twice now. Ash's farewell episode hit me pretty deep. And then there was the Leviathan preview where a wild Neurotyrant appeared. And the first thing myself and many others thought was, that looks like a Tentacruel. Super simple setup, black primer, hit it with some purple, and then we're just gonna spray it with blue. You can 100% just use a traditional brush for this, but the airbrush was a little bit quicker for me, and it makes it all kind of nice and smooth. Now I'm going to start value sketching. Now what value sketching is basically taking a lighter color and picking out all the high parts that you want the light to hit. Now I'm just using medium blue by Vallejo because I think it was a pretty cool jump from blue to blue. After the sketching, I'm going to take that same blue and thin it down quite a bit and start glazing. This is going to give us a gradient. All a gradient here is a fade. You want to drag the paint towards your highlights because that's where the light is going to be most intense, and that is where the most pigment is going to be left in that brush stroke. Now jumping up in that blue scale, we're just going to go to Andrea Blue, also by Vallejo, and we're just going to pick out some of the higher points. Now I have thinned this down just like our glaze, and I'm only picking out the highest points and creating more of those transitions. And we're obviously going to repeat it on the other side. When it comes to symmetrical things, I just like to do one section at a time. Another way of building up a gradient is by taking thin layers and just multiple passes. If you don't want to do the value sketching, that's fine, you can try it like this. Now this is the part that makes everything pop. I'm going to take that straight Andrea Blue, but not as thinned as we were using with the glaze in the previous step, and just picking out all of the high points. This is going to create some massive contrast. And contrast is basically what makes everything pop. For the big bug brain energy, I just took magenta and I started just slapping it on. It doesn't matter if you have a solid coat, because after this we're going to come across with a very pale pink and start picking out all the higher areas to this, paying closer attention to the physical top of the miniature. This might look like a pretty stark jump, and to be honest, it is, but the next few steps are really going to home in what we're after, and I'll show you how to do it. What I'm doing now is adding a little bit of white to that pale pink and picking out again the very high points of the actual miniature itself. And now it's time for the secret sauce. I took Army Painter's Familiar Pink, which is a speed paint, and I watered it down a little bit and covered the entire brain with this. This is why we weren't too concerned on how stark of a jump, how stark of a transition we were jumping up on between the magenta and the pinks, because this is going to pull everything in together. Tentacle time. Now I took Vallejo's blue-green and mixed it down 50-50 with also Vallejo's pale blue-grey. This gave us a very, very desaturated, off-feeling kind of green. On camera it's really subtle, but I actually mixed a little bit of emerald green into that same mix for all those pointy bits on the tentacles. This was risky because this is the first time I've been trying this technique. I put a little bit of that pale blue-grey and I used it in the airbrush to desaturate things, just to go over the higher spots and leave the green in the recesses. Now I'm going to start pushing back in some of that green onto the bottom side of the tentacles just to make it feel atmospheric. This should give it an almost underglow kind of feel. For the teeth and claws, I took Skeleton Fang by 2 thin coats, and I just outlined. I wasn't going too nuts on this. We all know how to do bones and claws. Just pick out all the little bits as you see fit. Now I'm just going to quickly highlight with 2 thin coats ivory. For this part, you can use your favourite black wash, but I've used Army Painter's Noble Skin very thin down for this. And we're just going to push it up into the recesses near the base of the claws and the teeth. Now this is probably one of my favourite ways to do bases. Basing has always been bittersweet for me, and especially when it comes to the painting side. Now what I like to do for things like this, and especially all my synthwave stuff, is wet blend a bunch of different colours. A bunch of different colours that we've used on the model, and a couple of orange speckles that you see here. And then we're going to cover the entire thing in a black wash. Just like with the big bug brain, this is going to pull everything together, and then we're just going to hit it with a dry brush. Now this is just a very light neutral grey, and I'm going to give it a few coats with it to really pop out some of those details, and you'll see what we're left with. A massive shout out to this week's sponsor, InGames, for providing the Leviathan box, which was really cool of them. And I hope that you've enjoyed coming on a little nostalgic journey of combining Pokemon and the grimdark future of Warhammer 40k. If you can hit that like and subscribe, I'll love you forever, and I'll see you in the next one.